The galaxy had known many powerful empires, but none as feared and disciplined as the Zorath Dominion. For centuries, they had expanded their reach with well-planned strategies, overwhelming strength and rigid control over their soldiers. Their leaders were confident that no species could stand against their might for long. Then came the news of a new challenger, a strange bipedal species called humans. The reports were confusing at first. Humans were said to have a strong will in physical endurance, but no technology or tactics matching the Zoroth's advanced warfare. The Dominion's leaders expected a swift victory. After all, other species had fallen quickly to their precise and wheel-oiled battle machines. But what happened next left them unsettled. The first time humans faced the Dominion troops on a contested planet, the aliens witnessed something entirely unexpected. Instead of lining up for a straightforward fight or relying solely on their heavy weapons, humans moved with wild unpredictability. They didn't follow any known rules of war. At first, Zorath commanders thought this was simply desperation or chaos, a primitive species panicking in the face of superior firepower. But as the battle unfolded, it became clear that the humans' strange behavior was a form of strategy, one the Zorath had never seen before. They attacked from directions no sensor could predict, darting in and out of cover like shadows. Humans used simple tools in creative ways, turning pieces of the environment into weapons or traps. One moment they would throw rocks mixed with sharp shards to slow down advancing troops. The next, they used fire and smoke in clever ways to blind and confuse the enemy. Their communication was fast, sharp, and filled with signals the Zoroth could not decode. More than once, entire alien squads were caught off guard by sudden ambushes that seemed to come from thin air. The Zorath soldiers, trained to expect direct combat and predictable formations, found themselves outmatched, not by strength or technology, but by sheer unpredictability. This chaotic fighting made the alien leaders uneasy. Their ancient manuals and centuries of war training gave no answers. For such tactics, they began calling the humans wildcards, unpredictable forces that could not be controlled or contained by logic alone. Psychological warfare also played a part in the humans' success. They used loud noises, bright flashes, and sudden movements, not just to attack but to break the enemy's spirit. Alien troops who had faced countless battles began to hesitate, their confidence shaken by the erratic and fearless approach of these humans. Zorath commanders watched from their command ships, their faces growing tight with concern as reports of defeats and close calls multiplied. Attempts to analyze the humans' behavior only deepened their confusion. Every time they thought they understood a pattern, the humans would change tactics again, as if they were dancing to a rhythm only they could hear. Some alien leaders argued for total annihilation of the humans to prevent this unknown threat from spreading, while others hesitated, wondering if these humans held a secret that could be valuable if understood. Meanwhile, the humans fought with a fierce energy, driven not only by survival, but by a strange pride in their unorthodox methods. They seemed to thrive on the surprise and confusion they caused. Each human squad worked together in ways that emphasized trust and quick thinking, improvising tools and plans as the battle shifted. It was clear they were not just following orders, but thinking on their feet, adapting instantly to new challenges. This combination of creativity, courage, and cooperation created a mystery that haunted the Zorath. The alien leaders had long believed their power came from discipline and technology, but now they faced a force that used chaos as its weapon. With every skirmish, the humans grew bolder, their tactics more daring, leaving the Zorath to wonder if they had underestimated this species. The battlefield was no longer a place of simple rules and clear winners. It was a place where surprise ruled, where the unexpected became the deadliest weapon. As the sun set over the war-torn planet, the Zoroth commanders stared out into the smoky horizon, their confidence shaken. Humans had arrived unpredictable, wild, and unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. And the Dominion would never be the same. The unexpected and chaotic tactics used by the humans in their battles against the Zorath Dominion had sent shockwaves through the alien leadership. And now, the Dominion's greatest minds gathered to understand the enigma before them. Deep within the command centers of their massive warships, the Zoroth assembled their most skilled tacticians, strategists and analysts, beings trained for decades in the art of war, who had never before faced an opponent this confounding. They pored over every scrap of information, every grainy piece of battle footage, and every report from the front lines, searching desperately for a clue, a pattern, or a logic behind the humans' erratic behavior. Day and night they watched. The humans move, striking from hidden places, disappearing before retaliation, and setting traps that seemed to spring without warning. But no matter how many times they rewound the recordings or cross-referenced attack times and locations, nothing made sense. The humans did not follow any known strategy or doctrine. Their actions were unpredictable, spontaneous, and seemingly guided by an instinct beyond reason. The analysts began to notice that the humans' tactics combined elements that were foreign and difficult to classify. Guerrilla warfare blended with feints, so clever that entire alien squads fell into traps laid hours earlier, sudden retreats, designed not out of fear, but to lure the enemy into vulnerable positions. And small teams moving silently through the thick jungle or ruined cities, striking where the Zoroth least expected. Each new tactic seemed to build on the last, evolving with every encounter, as if the humans learned and adapted faster than any machine or algorithm could process. As the days passed, the alien leaders felt a mix of frustration and growing admiration. The humans were not just fighters, they were problem solvers, inventors of chaos who used creativity as a weapon. While the Dominion prided itself on order and control, the humans thrived in disorder, using it to confuse, divide, and conquer. Some Zoroth generals began to whisper their fears aloud. Could these humans actually be smarter in battle than their own carefully trained officers? Could their raw energy and unpredictable methods be the key to toppling the Dominion's centuries-old dominance? In secret meetings, the highest council debated how to respond. Some argued for brute force, to crush the humans before their strange tactics spread. Others warned that underestimating these newcomers could lead to disaster. The humans were unlike any enemy faced before. They did not simply rely on numbers or firepower, but on innovation, risk-taking, and a fierce loyalty to one another. Meanwhile, on the battlefields themselves, the humans continued to refine their techniques. Commanders who had once led straightforward assaults now taught their troops to think quickly and independently, encouraging them to use the environment to their advantage. They set snares made from scavenged materials, used loud noises and flashes to startle the enemy, and communicated with silent hand signals and coded gestures. Each human unit was a small, flexible force, able to switch between attack, defense, and retreat without losing momentum. This adaptability frustrated the Zoroth forces, who found their usual methods of overwhelming and crushing the enemy failing repeatedly. Worse still, the humans showed no fear, even in the face of advanced weaponry and terrifying alien beasts unleashed on the battlefield. Their courage inspired one another, creating a chain of trust that made them more than just soldiers. They became a force united by purpose and the will to survive against all odds. The Zoroth's attempts to use their own spies and intelligence networks to predict human moves only yielded confusion. Even those who managed to infiltrate human lines reported a level of discipline and quick decision-making that baffled their handlers. The humans' willingness to take risks, to sacrifice small groups for a greater plan, and their ability to improvise under pressure made them unpredictable at every turn. Slowly, the alien leaders realized that the humans' strength lay not just in their physical ability or numbers, but in their minds, a kind of creative intelligence that had no parallel in the Dominion's rigid systems. This realization brought both fear and a grudging respect. The humans had shattered centuries of military tradition with their wild, unorthodox strategies, and the Dominion faced a foe unlike any before, one that fought not only with weapons, but with imagination. The Zoroth commanders regrouped to plan their next move. A sense of urgency settled over them. They knew that if they could not understand the humans soon, the war could turn decisively against them. The unpredictability that once seemed like a minor annoyance had become a dangerous advantage for the humans, threatening to unravel the Dominion's carefully constructed empire. In the shadows of their command rooms, the alien tacticians worked, harder determined to find a way to counter this new threat. But deep down, many wondered if the humans' chaotic brilliance was something that could ever truly be predicted or defeated. The battlefield had changed forever, and the galaxy held its breath as two very different forms of war collided, one built on discipline and order, the other on creativity and chaos. In the midst of it all, the humans pressed on their strange battle dance, continuing to confound and captivate all who witnessed it. And the Zorath knew one thing for sure. They had never faced anything like this before. The Zorath Dominion, once confident in their centuries of military dominance and well-honed strategies, now found themselves caught in an unsettling storm. Their traditional tactics, once unbreakable and sharp, began to crumble under the relentless pressure of the humans' unconventional warfare. The Dominion's forces suffered setbacks across multiple planets and battlefronts with every encounter. Revealing new ways, the humans twisted the rules of war to their advantage. What the Zorath saw as chaos was, in fact, a complex puzzle that only the humans seemed capable of solving.
Our very battlefield.
Transformed into a maze of traps, feints, and sudden counterattacks, challenging the rigid and predictable Zorath formations. Amid this rising tide of unexpected challenges, a remarkable human commander emerged, Inara, a former strategist turned warrior, whose mind was as sharp as her aim. Nara understood that brute force alone would not win this war. Instead, she crafted daring plans that combined deception, sacrifice, and teamwork in ways the Zorath had never witnessed. She taught her soldiers to think beyond survival, to use the terrain, timing, and enemy expectations against them. Under her leadership, human squads worked like finely tuned machines that could shift and change at a moment's notice, luring the enemy into traps with false retreats and sudden ambushes. These tactics were not without risks. Sometimes a small unit was sacrificed to save a larger force, but the humans accepted these losses with a quiet determination, knowing that each sacrifice brought them closer to victory. Inara's presence inspired her troops. Her calm confidence in the face of overwhelming odds gave them strength. And her strategies seemed almost like a game, a puzzle to be solved with every move. The Zorath commanders, who once saw humans as mere obstacles to be crushed, now faced a foe whose cleverness matched or even exceeded their own. As the humans adapted and pushed forward, alien leaders began to doubt. Meetings held in the cold halls of the Dominion's command centers grew tense and filled with uncertainty. Could their centuries-old empire withstand an enemy who defied all expectations and rules? The humans' unpredictable style eroded the Dominion's sense of control, turning their strengths into weaknesses. The Zorath's once unstoppable war machines became vulnerable to sudden creative attacks. Their heavy armor and weapons were outmaneuvered by small, fast-moving human units that could vanish before retaliation. The psychological impact on the alien troops was significant. Soldiers who had never known defeat began to question their training, their leaders, and even their own courage. The humans' fearless assaults, combined with their ability to work as a single unit, created a spirit that seemed unbreakable. Inara's forces were not just fighting, they were rewriting the rules of war itself, and the Dominion was struggling. To keep up with each victory, no matter how small, the humans grew bolder and more confident. They took risks that shocked the alien leaders, pushing their limits and proving time and again that the key to victory lay in creativity and unity rather than sheer power. In one key battle, Inara orchestrated a complex plan where human forces pretended to retreat across a barren wasteland, drawing the Zorath into a trap hidden beneath the surface. When the Dominion troops followed blindly, the ground exploded with hidden charges, disabling their vehicles and scattering their ranks. Then, human squads emerged from concealed positions, striking with precision and forcing the aliens into a desperate retreat. Moments like this sent ripples through the Dominion command, forcing even the most hardened generals to reconsider their approach. The humans were not just lucky or wild fighters, they were brilliant tacticians who thought several steps ahead, anticipating alien moves and turning their confidence into their greatest weakness. As the war dragged on, the gap between expectation and reality widened. The Zoroth Dominion, once sure of swift conquest, now faced the possibility that victory might slip away entirely. Whispers of defeat began to spread among the alien ranks, and some leaders even wondered if it was time to seek peace or retreat before their empire suffered irreversible damage. Yet, despite these dark thoughts, Inara and her forces pressed onward. Their hope and determination burned brighter than ever, fueled by the knowledge that their unorthodox methods had shattered the myth of the Dominion's invincibility. The galaxy watched in suspense as this turning tide reshaped the conflict, proving that even the mightiest power could fall before a smaller force armed with courage, intelligence, and the will to fight differently. The battlefields became stages for an unfolding drama where human creativity clashed with alien order. And the outcome was no longer certain. In the heart of this war, the humans stood not as victims, but as masters of unpredictability, rewriting history with every bold move. And the Zoroth Dominion, once invincible, now found itself questioning everything it had ever known about war and victory. The once unshakable foundations of the Zoroth Dominion began to tremble in ways no one could have predicted. The relentless and unpredictable tactics of the humans had not only shaken the Dominion's military power, but it also started to crack the rigid social and political order that held the empire together. Whispers of change echoed through the ranks of the Dominion, carried by those who had grown tired of strict rules, endless wars, and the unyielding grip of tradition. Surprisingly, some factions within the alien alliance, once fierce supporters of the old ways, found themselves quietly admiring the humans' creative battle methods. These alien dissidents, soldiers and leaders who had witnessed the humans' adaptability firsthand, began to question their own rigid doctrines. What if the key to survival and success wasn't strict discipline or overwhelming force, but the ability to think beyond the limits imposed by centuries of tradition? In hidden chambers away from the watchful eyes of the Dominion's high command, secret meetings took place between humans and these alien rebels. The talks were tense at first. Mistrust lingered on both sides, shaped by years of conflict and fear. Yet, as conversations deepened, a common understanding grew. The humans shared stories of battles won by unexpected moves, of quick decisions made in the heat of chaos, and of the strength found in flexibility and trust among comrades. In return, the alien dissidents revealed cracks in the Dominion's control and the frustrations of those forced to follow rules that no longer served them. From these exchanges, new alliances began to form quiet but powerful bonds that threatened to undo the old order. The humans taught their new allies how to break free from rigid thinking, to use unpredictability as a strength rather than a weakness. They emphasized creativity over conformity, encouraging the alien dissidents to embrace uncertainty and adapt quickly to changing circumstances. Slowly, these ideas spread beyond the secret meetings, influencing more soldiers and commanders who had grown disillusioned with the Dominion's strict hierarchy. The established power structure, once solid and unchallengeable, started to crumble as this coalition of humans and alien rebels grew stronger. The galaxy watched with growing interest and surprise. Some species cheered this shift, hopeful for a future where innovation and collaboration replaced fear and control. Others feared that the old ways were dying, leaving behind chaos and uncertainty. Battles became less predictable, not just because of the humans' tactics, but because the Dominion was no longer united in its approach. Different factions within the alliance began to act independently, inspired by the new ideas they had learned from their human allies. In this turbulent time, the war changed not only in how it was fought, but in what it meant. The fight was no longer just about territory or power. It had become a struggle for the future itself, a test of whether adaptability and open minds could overcome rigid dogma and domination. The humans, once seen as wild and disorganized fighters, had become symbols of change and hope. Their ability to teach and inspire even those who had once been their enemies showed that victory could come from more than just force. It could come from connection, understanding, and the courage to challenge the status quo. As the old Dominion's control weakened, new leaders emerged from the coalition. These leaders combined the best of both worlds, the humans' innovative tactics and the alien rebels' knowledge of the Dominion's inner workings. Together, they forged strategies that surprised even the most seasoned commanders and gave their forces a renewed sense of purpose. The galaxy, caught between fear and fascination, watched as a new era dawned. The dominance of one empire was no longer assured, and a future shaped by cooperation, unpredictability, and creativity seemed possible. The war had entered a new phase one, where old rules were shattered and new alliances formed in the most unexpected ways. And at the heart of this change were the humans, whose wild battle strategies had not only won battles, but had also rewritten the story of power itself. The final battle was unlike any the galaxy had ever witnessed, a culmination of years of conflict, struggle, and unexpected change. The humans, together with their new alien allies, who had embraced unpredictability and creativity, prepared to face the remaining forces of the Zorth Dominion in a decisive confrontation that would decide the fate of countless worlds. The air was thick with tension and anticipation as the coalition moved forward, united by a deep trust forged through shared trials and victories. Human commanders, led by Inara, planned their moves with a boldness and cunning that surprised even their own troops. They knew this battle would test everything they had learned, their wild strategies, their ability to adapt, and above all, their unbreakable spirit. As the first shots rang out, the battlefield transformed into a chaotic dance of ambushes, feints, and swift strikes. The coalition forces moved as one, fluid and unpredictable, exploiting every weakness in the Dominion's lines. The humans used every trick they had honed over years of fighting hidden traps, sudden retreats that lured enemies into danger, and coordinated attacks from unexpected directions. Their alien allies, once prisoners of strict military rules, fought with new freedom and creativity, surprising the Dominion forces with tactics they had never imagined. The Dominion, though still powerful and determined, found their old advantages slipping away. Their formations, once invincible, were broken apart by the coalition's unpredictable assaults. Alien commanders who had dismissed humans as wild and unorganized now faced the painful truth. These fighters were brilliant, courageous, and united in a way that no amount of technology or discipline could match. As the battle wore on, moments of great sacrifice and heroism unfolded. Human squads held positions against overwhelming odds, buying time for their allies to regroup and counterattack. The alien dissidents, inspired by the humans' leadership, took daring risks to break enemy lines and protect civilians caught in the crossfire. Trust and loyalty between the different species became the true weapon of this war, proving that cooperation could triumph over division. When the final blow came, it was not a single act of strength, but the result of countless small victories all woven together by strategy and heart. The Dominion's forces, exhausted and disorganized, began to retreat, their confidence shattered by the very chaos they had once scorned. As silence fell over the battlefield, the leaders of the Dominion were forced to acknowledge the humans' brilliance. They recognized that this chaotic species, once dismissed as mere savages, had changed the course of history. The encounter with humans had forced the Dominion to rethink everything they believed about war, strength, and survival. The galaxy was forever changed. Humanity's legacy was no longer just about survival, it was about transformation. By breaking the rules and embracing unpredictability, humans had reshaped the future, showing that true power lies in creativity, courage, and the bonds forged in the heat of battle. This victory was not just theirs, but belonged to all who dared to dream beyond old boundaries. Humans and their allies began to rebuild, not as conquerors, but as partners, creating a new order in the stars where innovation and freedom were valued over fear and control. Stories of the war and the wild humans spread across the galaxy, inspiring countless species to rethink their own paths and embrace change. And as the stars shone brightly over the new era, it was clear that the greatest strategy of all was the courage to break the rules and fight with heart. A legacy humanity would carry forever among the stars.